Yo, welcome back. It's Corey D, the motherfucking Great, aka Poseidon Sounds. All that down our mind, you know what it is. And today we are going over my beat mixing tutorial, or my beat mixing process. I'm going over a complete from start to finish with this one. I'm going to show you everything I do for you guys to be able to mix your beats in one video. It's going to be kind of a long video. It's going to be over an hour, about an hour and a half. But I just wanted to make an actual from start to finish of how I approach mixing beats and my reasoning for doing the techniques I actually implement. So yeah, I just wanted to give the game away, give away the sauce. And like I said, mixing is subjective, so I don't do every single thing to every sound every time in terms of approaching it. But the overall way I think about of like mixing and making space for the instruments is the same. It's the same thought process behind getting everything to fit in B1 and have its own space inside the actual mix and the overall final output of the beat. So yeah, we're gonna get into that. It's gonna be a little bit of a long video, but once again, it is start to finish, and I'm gonna show you guys how to get it done. Jump straight into it. So, like you guys know already, or if you don't know, I make my beats with MPC, but I do mix with FL Studio. But when I'm mixing a song and mixing the beats simultaneously with vocals and the beat, I do use Pro Tools. But I'm just making beats to post online or for other artists. I do use FL Studio. I just like the workflow in terms of mixing. It's just a really easy layout. I like the way it looks, and it's just real easy for me to mix with FL Studio. So when mixing beats, I do use FL Studio. So what I did already, I have the tracks on here. I have my tracked out files. I dragged them in. I already routed them to the channels, and I labeled everything. So first thing I do is that I have an EQ already on all of these channels, except for the master. In FL Studio, when you bring up a new session or file, there's already a plugin on the master bus. I think it's a limiter, but I take it off. So I took it off, and then I just put basically a EQ. I use Fabfilter Pro. You can use any EQ you want. It's just a good one. It's really nice visually, and I like the way it sounds. You can use any one you want. But so what I do first is I go through all these instruments individually and I EQ them. So let's start off with the main melody. So hit play. And so I'm just rolling off this low end that you guys see that pops up on this visual part of this EQ. So all this low end that's like at these low levels, like -12 dB and stuff, they're there. This low end is here, but it's not enough that you can actually hear it, but it will muddy up the mix because it's occupying a frequency range that other instruments in the beat live at. And so that's what this mixing process is about, is besides stylization and aesthetic and adding effects and whatnot, it is about making sure that these frequencies of these instrumentations don't clash and that each one has room in the mix to live. So with all these, I go and EQ out these sounds. So back to it. EQing, I'm just basically rolling off the low end until I hear it actually start to change the sound too much. I don't want to change the sound too much. I just want to get off that low end, but I don't want to take out too much where the sound doesn't sound like the sound anymore. It sounds like a degraded version of the sound. So. And when we're doing this tutorial, it's best that you use a really nice pair of quality headphones. I use the Sennheiser HT280s, but I'm actually mixing out of my Yamaha HS8. So nice pair of studio monitors so that you can hear these frequencies. And yeah, let's get back to it. That's good for the main melody. Then I'm going to the next one. Just go in order. Why not? And I'm just moving this around to a point where the actual instrument that I'm selecting to EQ is actually in the beat. There we go. So main melody back in. And then since I'm just kind of using this as a layer on the clap, and it's almost like a hi-hat sound, or it is like a hi-hat sound, but I'm using it layered with the clap. So I'm actually gonna take out some of this high-end frequencies because this is where the actual hi-hats are gonna reside, and I don't want them interfering with them too much, even though it's not frequent enough, it's not hitting frequently enough that I think it'll make too much of a difference. But I'm gonna just EQ it out, some of those frequencies, just because it's just there for texture, really. Cool. And then I rolled everything off after 13K with that one. Next one, let's get to the hi-hats. Again, roll off this low end. And then we see it peaks around here, around like 11K ish, and actually drops off. So I'm gonna cut some of that. And with these things, with these effects, I do recommend using this bypass button over here so that you can actually hear these changes and make sure that they're actually contributing and making positive changes to the mix as opposed to taking away from the mix. So. And it just sounds more honed in on the actual frequency that I'm using in this instrument for. So it sounds like the hi-hat's a little bit more prominent because I'm cutting out the lower end frequencies and a little bit of the high on it and just zoning in on the actual frequency that I want to hear in that instrument. Next one. The open hat. Same thing. little bit more of that in there. I think we're good. Cool. On to the clap. With my snares and my claps, sometimes I do actually boost for air. I chose this clap though. This clap has a little bit of reverb on the end of it, so I actually like the way this clap just sounds alone. So I'm not gonna actually boost air with this because it does have reverb on it. So I'm not gonna add like a boost around the 10K range for it. Sometimes even with the snare, I do a little slight bump in the 1K, but I think I'm just gonna roll off the bottom end of this clap and call it a day. Like I said, when I make the beats, sound selection is everything. So sometimes what I do with one snare or one sound in terms of EQ wise, I won't always do it all the time. So I think I like this one how it is. It's just the sound selection. It was a good clap and it stands on its own. So just roll off the low end with that one. I could take off a little bit of the high, but I just like it. So just making decisions that you make. Selective and subjective. On to the synth bass. Okay, and with the synth bass, since it is a low frequency instrument, I'm gonna cut the highs first. Okay, and so I rolled off to around 36,000 kilohertz. And so with this synth bass, since I don't have an 808 and I just use the kick, I am going to add some more high-end frequency to it using distortion when I get around to that. And that's just going to be basically, the trick so that you can hear it on iPhone speakers or cell phone speakers and other sound sources that doesn't necessarily have a high low end response, and so it's going to be translated. The bass is going to be translated through the high end using distortion. I'm going to show you when I get to there. So. And I'm going to roll off some of the really low part of this. Not too much because I don't want it to cut or degrade the sound at the low end. So I'm just going to. bass. Now onto the kick. And then a lot of the times with my kicks, I will do a slight boost around the 60 to 80 hertz range. That's because that's where the thump resides with the kick, and I'll do like a bell, and I may do like I don't know. Let's do about 1.7 and just make it a little bit of a broad boost. Cool. So just a slight boost right there, a little broad boost in the 62 hertz, and rolled off some of the low end because I wanted that punchiness from the kick, and rolled off some of that high end. So this is where the snare and the hi-hats are going to reside. So before and after. Cool. To the next one. Counter melody for the hook. Roll off that low. moving right along. And once again, this snap comes in sometimes alternatively to the clap. And this one has reverb on it too. And so I chose this one specifically. And so I won't be adding any type of boost on this. And I won't be, I may cut a little bit of the high frequency from the snap actually. Cool. And so I'm gonna go back to these transition effects and EQ these just a little bit because they're at the beginning of the song. They only come in the song one time. They only come in at the beginning, transitioning into the beat drop. And just where it ends, because it trickles down in volume. It doesn't go too much below there, but just EQ it for the hell of it, the low end out of it. Just to make sure. And then again with this one. And I think that's everything that we have that needs to be EQ'd. Let me just check one more time. Bam. So, oh no. So, snare. Yep. Open hat. Good. Clap. Good. And I'm just checking again that I did EQ all of these sounds, because sometimes I'm a little bit careless and I don't actually EQ everyone on accident. Usually I don't have 14 tracks. I'm kind of a minimalist when I'm making beats, so I try to keep it like 10 max. But this one needed what it needed, and that's music. Cool. So I think I'm good. Okay, so we're good. So I'll just listen to the song again just to get kind of feel for it, to see if any type of effects I want to use on it. Yeah. And so what I do want to do is I do want to turn up my synth bass, and I'm going to do using that through the FL's preamp, and it is number 6. And I knew I wanted to turn up the synth bass when I was making the beat. Clicking on this little ratchet right here and actually turning it up. But before that, I'm going to actually put soft clipper on it. And I just pretty much leave it stock settings with the soft clipper. This allows you to push up the preamp volume of the sound without having it actually clip, so you can get the perceived volume louder without clipping. So it's on the synth bass. And the orders of just if you guys don't know, the order of these plugins do matter. You can mix and match how you want to do them, but basically it's getting EQ'd first, and then the EQ'd sound is going into the soft clipper. So when you keep that in mind when you're doing these plugins, that the place of the plugins in the plugin chain does affect the overall sound, and so experiment with that. So pushing up the synth bass. And it's because I don't have an 808, but I just like my synths to really hit hard. I just like synth bass. So turn that up, and I'm going to do the same thing with the kick. Soft clip. Kick is number 7. And I'm going to turn up the kick. see, it's not distorting. It's right below digital 0 with distortion. So it's just keeping it there and allowing me to push it up for perceived volume. Okay. And with the melody, sometimes I like to throw delay on the melody. And I also like to use an imager on my melodies to make them a little bit wider. Because I like, just me personally, my style of mixing and type of beats I make, I like my melodies to sound wide, to sound like it's engulfing the stereo field, or being engulfed by the melody. So I kind of make my melodies a little bit high. That's what I just like to do. So let's mess around with like, let's see, like H delay, and see if we can put a little bit delay on the actual melody. H delay. There we go. So 100% when I turn off this analog thing, it just creates unwanted sound. Usually bring down my feedback. Actually back that off. Sometimes people do use synths for the delays and time-based effects. I don't mix them in too much with the wet knob, so that's fine for me. I can always use the preamp to turn it up, because sometimes if you apply these delays and these time-based effects straight onto the channel with some of these instruments, or especially mostly vocals, then it does do something weird to the volume. Like it makes the volume go down. It sounds a little bit less in volume, but I know it works for me, and this is how I like to do it. So I'm gonna see what it's doing. I like the little ping pong effect because it moves the delay between the speakers, left and the right channel, and bounces it back and forth. It just sounds cool. It also helps with giving it that 3D feel. No. Sounds good. Got lo-fi. And then I'm gonna throw an imager on it. And I'm using the Waves plugins because I have Waves plugin. Use whatever one you like. Delays, you can use the stock FL delay. I just know what type of sound I like, and these are my go-to plugins when I'm mixing, so I'm using those. But in whatever imager works for you that you have, use that. And that makes it come really up the middle. But what I like to do is spread it a little bit wider. And I do go between soloing these effects and playing them all together with the sounds, but most importantly, it is important to play these changes with these effects to the in context and against the other sounds of the beat is very important because they all have to blend well. They have to sound as one. So it's fine to go in and out of soloing if you just need to hone in on the actual sound effect of the effect you're doing, the sound of the effect of what you're doing to the specific instrument, but make sure you do play it in context with the rest of the sounds in the beat. Okay, and let's see, with the hi-hat, let's see if I want to add a little bit of distortion to it. Just use the stock fast distortion. Gives it a little bit of extra high end. I think I actually do like that. Let's see. And this is two different sounds, A and B. Makes it sound a little bit more crispy. Makes those hi-hats sound a little bit more crispy. So I like that. Should add some on the open hat. I think I'm gonna add a little bit on the open hat.
little bit of reverb to this clap, just a little bit. It already has reverb on it. I'm just gonna add a little pinch to it. Cool. Okay, the clap's done. For the synth bass, I am going to add a little bit of distortion, like I was saying a little bit earlier, so that it can pick up, so that the sound of the synth bass can actually be picked up on cell phones and smaller speakers that don't have that low frequency response. It's going to be interpreted in the high end through those speakers. So play with the mix. delay to the counter melody. Let's get to the hook. That's where it plays at. And it being a stock Omnisphere sound, it does have a little bit of delay on it already. Let's see if there's anything else I want to do with it though. Once again, H delay. Stereo. These down. I don't think I'm gonna use HLA. I like the way it sounds without it, but I am gonna throw an imager on it. So. Cool. Yeah, and that's it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to level this thing in mono. So I'm gonna highlight all these channels that have tracks on them. And then we're stereo separation, fully merged, 100% merged. And now we have it in mono. The complete track is in mono, and I'm gonna start leveling. And I'll start at the beginning of the song, and I bring up my melody first. Actually, let me turn up my speakers. And the thing about mixing in mono is that you try to get everything to sound good in mono. That way, you know, when you open it up, it will sound good too. So mixing in mono helps so that you can find space for every individual instrument in a mono field. So if you can make it fit in mono and there's room for the sounds in mono, then when you open it up, you know it's just going to sound wide and big and lush. So that's what we put it inside mono for. And of course, the sounds are going to sound different if it's in mono, especially if they're stereo sounds. Like a lot of these Omnisphere ones are going to sound different in mono. So, but you know, once you open up to mono, it's going to be sound like it originally does. Some of these instruments pan left to right, and so they're not going to do that in mono, obviously. Just making space for all these to sound good when they play with each other, just leveling so that they sound good. And they all have their time to shine, and they're not being overpowered. And you can buy another instrument and you can hear everyone, except for the ones like the backing snare that's just used for texture, basically. just trying to make sure I can hear every instrument being played. Okay, I think I got it to where I want it to be. I am going to flip it back over to stereo and then make my minor tweaks from there, but I think I got it to about how I want it to be. Maybe play it one more time in mono. Set it how it's back in stereo. to cut through the mix a little bit more. Okay, and so with these mixes, for limiting purposes, you do want to leave some headroom. So what I like to do is go to the loudest part and then see where it's peaking at on the master channel, master fader, and I like to leave about 5 to 6 dB of headroom. And obviously it's going over that right now. So what I do is select all the channels and I bring them down. This way they all move in synchronization with each other, and so the levels stay the same. Looking at the peaks, you don't want it to really go above -5 dB. Say 5 is like right about there. So one more time, just gonna pull it down by a hair. Okay. Cool. Okay, so for my master bus, there's a couple of ways you can do this master bus. I do use a limiter at the end. Some people use, sometimes I actually do. More recently, I use a combination of the soft clipper with a limiter. That's one way to do it. With this beat, I'm just going to use a limiter on it. I'm going to add a couple more things to the master channel though. I'm going to add this NLS summer to the master channel. I'm going to show you it right quick. Bus. Here we go. And this is for tonal quality. I really just go through these and see which one gives me the best tone for this beat. You'll be able to hear it in the low end and the high end. And I use this plugin really just for like almost a saturation type effect. It gives me a certain tone depending if I use the spike, the mic, or the Nevo. I'm going to show you that. Okay, so I'm really liking the mic or the Nevo. Let's play it again. Something about that mic just makes my low end hit hard, so I'm thinking about using that one because I was turned up the preamp on that kick to get it to cut through the mix a little bit more, but using this mic setting actually gets me to come through a little bit. So. Yeah, the mic spike's a little bit too soft, the knees a little bit too smooth, but the mic gives me that. So I throw that on there first, and then I do some Master Bus glue, and of course I am talking about the SSL. Where's that? G-Bus compressor. It is, take a guess. Yes, here we go. The glue. When you open up this compressor, it's gonna have some of these settings already where they're at. I leave my attack to where it's at. My ratio. I drop this down. I leave the attack where it's at. I put the release on auto. Make it gain down to 0. And then I start tweaking it from there. After playing it, you don't want too much gain reduction with this. This is really just to make everything sound like it's melted together. And that's what this Master Bus compressor is known for doing and what you use it for. And we're just going for about max, maybe 2 dB of gain reduction. So what I'm going to do is, because I'm getting it a little bit too high on here, is I'm going to actually turn down these faders again. Because I do not want too much gain reduction happening at all with that Master Bus right here. About 3 right there, and I'm gonna pull it down one more time. Really just want about 2. Once again, this is actually optional. I just use it because it really glues the mix together. Look over here. makeup game. And we're hitting about where we wanted to hit for the headroom. That's without it. Okay, then I throw some tape on it for saturation. This preset, got it from a YouTuber, Help Me Devon. I like it. It's a mastering preset. It's the Mastering Fat Titan Open. I got that from him. I like to throw that on my master bus for my beats right before I put the limiter on, and just make sure there's like no delay or anything else on here sometimes. Make sure to turn down this noise level down to 0 or off. Sorry, turn it off. Everything else you can pretty much leave as it is. The noise just so you don't get any noise. These tape programs like to actually emulate the noise from these actual analog gear, and I hate it. I don't know why they add it on, but some people like it. It's good for lo-fi sometimes though, but I just don't like it, and so I just turn it off. Okay. Just gives it so much more life, so much more warmth, and it makes it feel big. I'm gonna turn down. Cool. Release my out right there. Cool. So right around where we need to be in terms of leaving headroom for the limiter. So play without the tape. Then with the tape. Just sounds so much wider, so much bigger. Cool. And on to the last part, the limiter. I used the Pro L limiter. Set the out to, let's say, 0.02. That way we're not hitting digital 0. Put it right underneath there. And I'm actually gonna put another one after, and it's not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna throw it on top of it, and that's just to make sure that no peaks even slip through this limiter, because sometimes it can happen is where the peaks do actually jump over. And so I'm gonna add another limiter on top of it and not do anything with it, just to make sure it does not do that. And so I'm gonna be going for some gain reduction. I'm going to be looking for about 4 dB of gain reduction, and this is what's going to give it its loudness. So here we go. So let me turn down a little bit. So once again, looking over here, right around where we need it to be, and kind of leaving headroom. this is the second one I'm adding, and just leave the output at 0 so nothing gets over 0, and just leaving that there, not doing anything. I'm going to exaggerate the limiter. So I got it at 9.4 right now of gain reduction. I'm going to exaggerate the limiter and show you what happens and how it squashes the low end and your dynamics of the beat. And so yeah, by pushing it up, you see it just basically squashes the low end. Your kick just becomes flat, dead. And so about 9.4 of dB reduction is what I'm using without squashing the kick too much. I'm getting that volume that I need. Okay, and so yeah, then I just, like I said, I put the second one over here just to make sure no peaks go above digital 0. And that's it. And then you just bounce it out and you're done. I didn't use any type of side chaining. The kick to the synth bass or an 808. One, I didn't use 808, but sometimes I'll still side chain the kick to the synth bass. But I didn't do it this time because I didn't feel like it needed it. I only do things because I feel like if it needs it. If it doesn't need it, then don't do it. A lot of the people online, and they have the tutorials, a lot of beginning producers will do things just in the order of doing things because they've seen other people do it. So do what you feel that it needs. Now, don't do it because you've seen somebody else do it. But if it needs it, then do it. If it doesn't need it, if you don't feel like it doesn't need the adjustment that you're going to do to the mix, then don't do it. So I didn't feel like I needed it. And yeah, that was just, I want to say quick, but essentially that was the quick mix down of how I mix my beats. And you just bounce it out how you normally do in the FL Studio. I am going to show another video of the LUFs and getting it to a listening volume of streaming sites and what the average peak needs to be of LUFs so that you guys don't have Apple Music or Spotify messing with your music once you do submit it to them, because if it's too loud, they will throw a limiter on there. If it's too low, they will throw a limiter on there to try to reduce it and bring it to their specifications because they have an average that they need the sound to be using LUFs. So I am going to make a video showing that. Yeah, and basically that's it. That's how I mix my beats. Sometimes I use a little bit different plugins, sometimes I use a little bit different effects, but the leveling and the whole idea of how I mix my beats and what I'm looking for and how I'm getting things to mesh together and how I'm EQing is pretty much all the same. And of course, I'm learning new stuff all the time, every day. So then I just add that into my workflow, and I will update this video as needed. And like I said, I will show you guys another video of side chaining and different techniques that I'm using when mixing too. But essentially that's it. Then you just bounce out your file, and let's just play it back and see what we got. Turn up the volume. And that's it. One thing I didn't say when I was mixing it is that usually you want the kick or the snare to be the highest sound in the beat. And so you make the decision. A lot of people use the snare. Sometimes I use the kick. Some people don't have the kick and they just have an 808, especially with a lot of trap music these days. Or they have like some type of combination of like a 808 kick. But anyway, you kind of want to choose which instrument is going to be loudest out of the kick and the snare, and then kind of build around that. This was a good mix. I do see some, here are some minor things I am going to tweak, but essentially this is how you mix your beat. So yeah, thank you. We're going to keep moving on in this tutorials. With these tutorials, hit me up if you got any questions, any mixing questions. If I don't know it, I'm going to find out and I'm going to get that information to y'all. Share information with me because I'm constantly trying to learn. You know, I don't think I know everything, and I for sure don't know everything at all. So I'm definitely looking to learn. And yeah, that's it. Corey D the Great, Down on my Poseidon Soundz, all that. And we out to the next one.